boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome back to the Key Issues podcast, the least likely podcast to show up on the same day of the week, every week, or any week. We just, sometimes we show up, sometimes we don't. Got a lot of stuff going on. Thank you guys for joining me. I am your host, Nick, here at Key Issues. With me, as always, the lovely, talented, beautiful, the sound of a generation, Garrett Gilmore.
Yo. that was my intro today.
Yeah, you broke the chain. It's for 875 previous podcasts.
This is
what up, y'all.
This is our second episode. So
true. So I'm looking at I'm doing a live feed of us. We're looking very bright. So hope you guys like that lighting. that's how we're working from now on. Oh, and you can also see my screen. You can see that I'm monitoring you, but that's just so I can talk to you guys in chat. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about a little film that maybe you guys have heard of. It's called Jungle Cruise.
Yes.
No, we're going to be talking about James Gunn's Suicide Squad today, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about a ton of other DC films. So as we go, if you have questions, comments, things that you want to discuss, feel free to drop them in the top chat section there, and we'll be happy to address stuff as you go. I don't know why I said top chat, just chat, regular chat. So before we start, I want to just get warmed up. I figure we can just discuss how things have been going. Okay. What's new with you?
So let's see. I've been I finished watching all 4 seasons of Better Call Saul.
I know, I'm working my way through them as well.
And then so I started binge watching Breaking Bad just to refresh because I hadn't seen Breaking Bad in like 5 years. And I'm on the 4th season of that. Playing a little bit of Hades, doing some runs on PS5, reading through Dune, about halfway through that. And I got a little package from Lucasfilm today. They sent me the new Christmas Star Wars book that's coming out in the next couple months.
That's pretty exciting.
So I'm going to read that, and then I'll post a little review on the podcast channel of that. So we'll see how you guys feel about us doing like standalone reviews on that channel. Speaking of which, you guys should go subscribe to the Key Issues podcast channel because all replays of the podcast will be posted there, not on this channel. So I think there's not a lot of subscribers on that channel, but
yeah, there's only like 40 or something. So we have 300,000 and some change here, and then 40 on our podcast station. So they're equivalent.
We've also not advertised.
Yeah, we've done no legwork, zero legwork for that podcast channel. I've been doing actually. You know what? While I'm discussing what I'm doing, it would actually maybe be helpful if we just dropped in the chat here that link. We could occasionally spam it here and there, and we'll probably drop it into the description for our videos in the future. I've been doing the exact same thing that Garrick's been doing, pretty much what he just laid out. I've been working my way through Better Call Saul. I also have bought Dune because I want to read that. I've gotten really into the trailers hooked me. I really want to figure out what it's all about. I've never read it. I'm sorry. I'm a bad nerd, and I'm looking to rectify that. I want to change. I want to change for you guys. So I'm doing that. Obviously, we've been making a ton of videos. We have a lot of Suicide Squad content. Well, not a lot, but we have a good amount of Suicide Squad content out there that's doing really well that you guys seem to dig. The Polka-Dot Man's complete history, that video is doing really well. Ratcatcher, not doing as well as the others, but still doing pretty good. And we got a video on, who was the other one that I made? There can't be that many here. Who else did I miss? Weasel. Yeah, thank you. I don't have a figure of him yet. And then Garrick made a kind of a power scaling / versus video on what would happen if the Suicide Squad that was comprised of the characters from David Ayers / mostly Warner Brothers executives version of the Suicide Squad fought the James Gunn version. And that video is doing well as well. So thank you guys for the support on there.
Not doing quite well enough though.
It will be. It'll be doing fine. And then other than that, we got what else am I doing? Buying a bunch of action figures, as you guys can regularly see. He mentioned, Garrick, the guy that's here, he mentioned the podcast channel. We're probably going to try to do some other stuff with it too. Like we would like to I'd personally like to just put some ideas that I have for maybe video essays or just stuff that I don't think would fit with our core demographic as big as our channel's gotten with Key Issues now. Like I know if I was to put something having to do with action figures on this channel, people will be like, what are you doing? But I could probably throw it up over there, just give you guys a tour of certain waves of action figures that I buy, or collectibles, or, a lot of times I obviously collect comic books. I'm consistently buying them on a regular basis. I just, pull them out next to me here. I'm always buying. Whoop. They're not meant if you mess them up. But I'm constantly buying stuff. I buy a lot of key issues. I post that stuff on Twitter. So, shameless self-plug. Follow me on there if you want to. But I'd like to, run down comic books, things that we like, that we have on that channel. We needed another place to do it. So that would be a great opportunity for us to do that. If you're interested in it, cool. If not, no big deal. So other than that, are you ready to talk about Suicide Squad?
I've been ready for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. We totally flaked out. I had family. We had family in town.
Yeah,
we had other
Nick
stuff
had
going.
family,
We had stuff
so
going
it's
on,
fine.
so it's taken us a little bit of time to get around to doing it. But all right. So Suicide Squad. Did you like it?
Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. It was great. Thanks. That was actually our whole episode on. No, I'm kidding. No, I thought. So the thumbnail for today's podcast said Suicide Squad is it the best DCEU movie yet? Personally,
Whoa! You're gonna spoil it right at the beginning of the review?
yeah, why not?
Okay.
Let's set the tone. I think it was. I had a lot of fun in the movie, definitely a lot more fun than I've had in some of the other DC movies. But also, as time has gone on, I've started to appreciate a lot of the films a little bit more. I've tried to start taking things a little bit less seriously. Overall, really enjoyed it. I thought the characters, there was a lot of humor, there was a lot of great action, a lot of fun casting, a lot of unique characters, really bizarre, fun story that had a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs, and had some pretty heartfelt moments, some pretty brutal moments, and all that stuff we'll talk about as we go. Garrick, your thoughts, your opinions?
Listen, I think the Suicide Squad is, another step in the right direction for the DC Extended Universe, and they've been doing this pretty consistently the past few movies, except for the little Wonder Woman 1984 film that they made, which I wasn't that crazy about, but Shazam, Birds of Prey, and now the Suicide Squad, 3 amazing movies that I thoroughly enjoyed, and they all sort of had that same sort of, I guess, a vibe to them, where things are a little bit more goofy, they're a little bit more lighthearted, but for Birds of Prey as well as the Suicide Squad, there was a lot of crazy, violent, ultra-violent action in it, which is something that you don't get a lot with comic book movies nowadays, especially with the Marvel films. You get action, definitely, but nothing as over-the-top violent or crazy or just weird as what we saw in the Suicide Squad. So, yeah, it was a breath of fresh air, and it was a James Gunn movie. He's a great filmmaker, and he's a unique filmmaker, and it's really cool to see that DC let him do whatever he wanted. And
Absolutely.
He crafted a movie that was devoid of, studio interference. We talk about the original Suicide Squad. That movie is, like you said, a studio-made film, and it's pretty obvious that it is. It's basically a trailer for, like, the first half of the movie is like a trailer for the second half of the movie. It's really weird. But this movie, they let him do whatever, and I think, they let him do that because they had seen what they had been doing wrong, which is interfering too much, and they had seen what James Gunn had done with the Guardians of the Galaxy films. Obviously, characters no one had ever heard of before up to that point, and then now they're like, do whatever, literally do whatever. Sure. And they were like, you want Superman, you want Batman, who do you want? And he said, I want Polka-Dot Man, son.
And now I have an action figure of
and now everyone knows who Polka-Dot Man is. Yeah. So, it's just really cool, and I really hope that he comes back and does more DC stuff. But he basically confirmed that he will be on Twitter. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great movie.
So real quick, let's kind of discuss some of the events that led up to the Suicide Squad without getting too far down that weird internet troll rabbit hole. For those of you guys who don't remember, there was a little bit of some canceling by Disney of James Gunn for some old jokes that led him to seek new employment, and DC and Warner Brothers said, look, we got a sack of money over here for you. You want to come over here and direct something? And he said, well, I like money. Yeah, that sounds great for me. And he went over there. They basically gave him carte blanche, and they said, you can do whatever you want. And in interviews recently, it's come out where, they were talking to him about it. And one of the things that he made a stipulation is that he said, I want to be able to kill whoever I want. And I think that there was some slight caveats of people that he couldn't kill in the greater DC universe, but for the most part, anybody that he picked for his movie, he was allowed to kill, which is why it was so unique and so interesting, and also why he went about killing half of the cast in the first 5 minutes of the film, which was great. But other than that, there's also, there was the previous version of the Suicide Squad that was written and directed by James Gunn, written and directed by David Ayer. Now there's some people out there that are championing for, a more faithful cut of whatever he thought he was originally trying to do before the studio stepped in. And regardless of your feelings on that, I think a lot of people out there who were not familiar, who maybe didn't see this first version, were familiar with that version and maybe kind of have waited a little bit to see how the reaction critically went on this before they went. And now that it has become like the positive buzz is there, you're seeing a lot more discussion, a lot more stuff online about this movie. So that's kind of gives you the background. If you didn't know anything, you probably already knew it, because let's face it, the majority of our subscribers are fairly informed when it comes to the comings and goings of, Marvel DC films. So that being said, let's discuss, if we can, the film's plot itself.
Right.
So the film itself was really interesting. As Garrick said, one of the things about the film that was really cool was that it was the trailers didn't give you a whole lot of information outside of a general idea of what the bad guy for the film was. So the first maybe 15 minutes of the film kind of shocked a lot of people. Actually, can I just back up for 1 second?
Go ahead.
My favorite part of the film was the fact that we got to sit in an actual movie theater and watch it. It was the first time that Garrick and I had been to a film since the dark times of COVID had begun. So it was nice to sit in a theater with popcorn and a drink, a Coke, which is you're legally required to drink at the movie theater, not Pepsi. Gross.
Right.
We sat there, we watched. In fact, it was cherry Coke. If we want to be serious about it. We sat there, watched a movie. It was great. I just wanted to bring that up. It was nice to sit in a theater again. We also went just last week and saw The Green Knight, and that was a really good movie, but we're not going to be covering that in the podcast. So let's discuss the plot of the film. Back to what I was mentioning before. The first 15 minutes of the film kind of, I wouldn't say bait and switches you, but it definitely kind of shocked me. What did you think of the first opening, battle scene of the movie?
I really liked it. He comes right in and doesn't pussyfoot around. He gives you what you need to know. What's a Suicide Squad? To be honest, actually, I'm going to rewind. The first shot of the movie...
I already used our one rewind.
Oh. Well, you get one, I get one.
Okay, I didn't know.
The first shot of the movie got me so hyped. That reverse shot of Savant just bouncing the ball in the puddle, and then it pans up to him, and the old Folsom Prison Blues are playing.
Yeah, Johnny Cash.
Yeah, it just got me super excited, and it was that was just a neat shot. But anyway, he comes in, he gives you bam, bam, bam. Here's what the Suicide Squad is. Here's what they do. We're going to go on a mission now.
Absolutely.
And he just gets a bunch of just wild, crazy people in a plane, and then drops them on a beach, and they all start dying. And you're like, what is going on?
That scene of them in the plane, the initial Team A for the Suicide Squad, which at this point in the film, we didn't know there was a Team A and a Team B.
Yeah.
So that initial team is actually really, that banter in the plane was some of the best writing in the movie, and it really did remind me a lot of kind of how Quentin Tarantino writes dialogue, in the sense that it was very kind of matter-of-factly. It was filled with a lot of jokes, but kind of pointed. And I just thought it was really good. It wasn't, exactly like Quentin, but it kind of reminded me a bit of how he writes dialogue, especially with Pete Davidson sitting there. And he was like, I can't sit next to a werewolf. I cannot sit next to a werewolf right now. And Captain Boomerang being just so cold and dry with his delivery, being like,
right.
What does TDK stand for? They're letters. It's me. Because all letters are names, you dickhead. I thought that was great. Or all names are letters. Those were funny.
Well, that was Javelin that said that, but...
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
You sure?
I'm 100%
okay.
sure.
All right. I'm going to pull
Captain Boomerang makes the joke about the dog. Weasel being yeah.
I'm gonna look it up while you're
Okay,
here.
look it up. I've seen the
Okay.
movie 4 times. I know who said the lines.
All right, fair enough.
Not to call you out, but I mean, the comments were going to do it if I did it.
I've already been called out, so.
Wow.
All right, guys, that was it for today's episode. Thank you guys.
But the opening sequence was really cool, and I thought for sure that it was going to be a deal where, like, okay, well, this is actually the end of the movie. Let's go back and then we'll explain what happened, which he kind of does. He does do the old let's take a second and rewind, but he's like, we're gonna rewind to the actual characters that are in the movie, and you get Bloodsport, you get Peacemaker, you get Polka-Dot Man, you get Ratcatcher 2, and all of them, and of course eventually they link up with Harley. But I thought it was really, really funny the way that he used Bloodsport and kind of introduced him as basically Deadshot, where he's like, he's this mercenary, he can kill everyone, he can kill anyone, he can, do all this thing, and then they're like, okay, well, Peacemaker's actually the same character too. So I thought that was really funny, because those rumors were going around that Deadshot or Idris Elba was going to play Deadshot and replace Will Smith, and he basically did, but played a different character, which I thought was really funny. But I like the way that he worked in a similar sort of backstory, whereas Bloodsport and Deadshot, they both have this daughter that one really cares about and the other one doesn't really care all that much about until he searches his feelings and figures out how he actually feels.
Has an Anakin Skywalker moment.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think it would be.
I like the way he did
I think it would be really interesting if Bloodshot, Peacemaker, and Deadshot all met each other.
Yeah, that
it
would
would just be that would be the perfect ending, or post-credit scene if they were or I don't know. I guess it couldn't be in this film, but if there was some way to have them all be there. He's like, "What do you do again?" I do this. I was an assassin. I never miss, and I have a daughter. And he's like, "That's what I do." That would just be really interesting. It would be really funny.
Yeah.
But where did we leave off? I don't even know what we're talking about.
I was just
anymore.
talking about the movie.
It's pretty good.
the beginning of it.
So I like the fact that they killed kind of the entire initial part of the cast off, with the exception of Harley Quinn and Rick Flagg. But the one part of that of course I'll never forgive them for is the death of Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, that was rough. That one was rough.
Garrick and I, we made a checklist before we went into the film of all the different villains that we knew were going to be as part of the Suicide Squad, and both of us picked that he would live, and we were both wrong, which sucks because we made a list of everybody who we thought would live or die. I won the competition, not by much though, but we both we're hoping that he would survive. But I guess when you never see a guy in the rest of the trailer, I guess looking back at the trailers, you can tell now that he was, always destined for death. But
and the posters, which only had these characters on it.
Yeah, and the first wave of figures that only had these ones in it. Yeah, hindsight's 2020. We definitely should have thought about this, but that doesn't mean that in the future they can't make action figures of those characters. And frankly, Todd McFarlane, I think you should.
Yeah,
I think it'd be irresponsible to not have a Ratcatcher, a Weasel, and a Captain Boomerang figure out there by holidays.
And a Rick Flagg in the yellow T-shirt,
for sure,
most definitely,
and an Amanda Waller with her tiny square haircut. Viola Davis.
Yeah, she could be the
Build-A-Figure.
Speaking of Rick Flagg, let's talk about how good Rick Flagg is in this movie. Just generally, from jump, he's way more charismatic. He's a lot more interesting. He's a better character. He's just in the first movie, so paint by numbers. I'm a military guy. If you step out of line, you're gonna die. And I love how, just fast forward to later in the movie where they were playing off that initial scene where you first meet Rick Flagg first meets the team in the first Suicide Squad, and he's like, do this, you'll die, do this, you'll die. And then they do that with the Thinker, and Harley's like, cough without covering your mouth, you die. So I thought that was a pretty funny sort of dig at the first movie. I don't know if it was a dig more so as a funny reference to the first movie, but yeah, Rick Flagg, major upgrade in this film for sure.
Did you note? Oh God, I completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, did you notice that his accent kind of went away? That he had that weird Southern accent.
He did have a little bit of this
in the first movie. He said, "My girlfriend's the Enchantress," and they never brought her up. Like he was never like, yeah, we split. Like in other like what are like there's some movies like that, like in Iron Man. In Civil War, where he's like, we're taking a break. Tony's talking about Pepper, and he says, oh yeah, you know, we broke up.
Or in Birds of Prey, where it's Harley's like, I broke up with the Joker the first 10 seconds of the movie, even though they were like madly in love at the end of the last film that she was in.
Yeah,
it's just
they
like,
never explain it. They're just like, Jared, we couldn't get him back and didn't want him. So so that's fun. But yeah, they definitely dropped his accent, or at least the thickness of the accent, because in the first movie it was like almost unbearable.
He had a drawl.
Yeah. And now in this one he didn't. He was just kind of playing it more just more closely to his natural speaking voice, and I think that lended itself better to his delivery of his lines. And he was also surprisingly funny, and I thought the character himself had a lot more charm this time around than he did in the first one. In the first one, he was like a sympathetic. You had like empathy or sympathy for him as a character, because he has this girlfriend that has a demon inside of her. But I didn't personally. I know, but no,
you were supposed to.
Yeah, you were supposed to. But in this one, you did kind of feel more connection to him, especially towards the end of the film with the events that took place that we'll discuss later. But
yeah, and an interesting little tidbit here. What's the actor's name?
Joel Kinnaman.
Yeah, Joel Kinnaman said in an interview that he was really, really nervous about being in this movie because he had never done anything that was comedic or written to be comedic. So he was like really scared going into it that he wouldn't be able to pull it off. But I thought he was hilarious in this movie. I mean, he has a bunch of one-liners that nail it absolutely, and even his more subtle comedic moments really work. And I think again that's you can attribute that to James Gunn. I think he's an actor's director. He always gets the best out of his actors, I feel like.
For sure.
And he was able to pull that out with not only his writing, but the way he was able to stage the scenes and the way he was able to set up the jokes. So I think for the most part, the humor in the movie worked more than it didn't. I feel like in the first Guardians, I was cracking up. In the second one, it was more miss. But in this, I think he hit his stride, and most of it was killing it for me personally. But yeah, Joel was great. And we'll talk about his ending a little bit later.
We've been kind of jumping around here, but in terms of the plot for the story, for those of you guys who know, again, obviously we're doing a lot of spoilers here, so if you haven't seen it, sorry. That's what the podcast is basically about. Is the premise of the story is there is an item in Corto Maltese, a building called Jotunheim, and they are trying. Amanda Waller needs to get the Suicide Squad in there to destroy Jotunheim, and they believe that there is sensitive data inside of there, and also possibly an extraterrestrial who turns out to be Starro the Conqueror. And little do they know, in Corto Maltese, as things are going on, there's a violent military coup, which is a subplot. And the Suicide Squad goes in. They're trying to do their best to remain undetected, do the mission that they have to do, and get out. And of course, kind of all hell breaks loose, and we're introduced to this team of characters that we've kind of loosely been discussing, led by Rick Flagg. And the very first thing that they have to do as a team, led by Bloodshot, but the
Bloodsport.
very first Bloodsport. I'm sorry, I'm going to do that
Bloodsport.
I'm going to do that like 10 times. Led by Bloodsport. The very first thing they have to do is rescue Rick Flagg, who they believe was taken prisoner during the initial battle on the beach. So as they do that, I think personally that kind of led to one of the very best sequences in the movie. But before they get there, the team does a little bit of bonding in the woods. We're introduced to each of the team members, which you can see here, but we are missing one very crucial character, which is Ratcatcher 2, who is the daughter of the original Ratcatcher in this universe. And she, for those of you guys who of course know it, she has the ability to control rats. They go through the jungles as they're looking for Rick Flagg, and you just kind of get a sense of what each and every character is like in the film. And they do a lot of really good, kind of wholesome team building. Obviously, King Shark's kind of the big, dopey, loose cannon type character. Polka-Dot Man is absolutely batshit insane, but a really cool character. And then Bloodshot and or Bloodsport as he's called by some, and then Peacemaker are essentially the same people, with Peacemaker kind of being a warped reality version of Captain America, who is so obsessed with liberty that he is willing to literally kill men, women, children. He'll cross any line to keep
suck
people.
Any dick.
He'd eat a whole beach full of dicks if he has to. So you kind of got the setup here, and I think the initial setup for the film, all the way through the first battle into the jungle, did a really good job of establishing the pace, the character motivations, and it didn't give you too much needless exposition about all the characters' backstories. We got just enough from Amanda Waller walking them around being like, this is King Shark. He's a demigod. He's dumb as shit. This is Polka-Dot
Right.
Man. He has an extraterrestrial virus. He's insane. He's a crazy person. Here's Peacemaker. Also, crazy person, very lethal. He's basically exactly the same as you, Bloodshot, and then Bloodsport.
You'll get it, bro. You'll get it. That's only 3 times in 5 minutes.
And then Bloodsport gets the ability to actually get a little bit more character development. So then we get into the meat and potatoes of the film, which is their actual attempts at rescuing. So the very first setup for the scene is them rescuing Rick Flagg, which personally, I don't know about you, I thought is one of the very best action sequences in the movie. It's just batshit.
Yeah, it's a crazy dick measuring contest between the two characters that have the same skills, and it's just hilarious how they're going back and forth. When I was in the movie, it was clear, obviously, they were trying to be stealthy, but they were like burning people alive. And I was just, it's so ridiculous that you're like, you don't care that much, that within the context of the film, it doesn't make that much sense. Cause they're like sitting in this quiet, like jungle, and like Polka-Dot Man is crushing a giant lookout tower and nobody hears it. But it's so over the top and crazy that it's like, who really cares? Like, the scene is so fun that even those like little inconsistencies where you might be like, it might pull you out in another film, it doesn't really here, because you're laughing so hard and you're just entranced by this, again, dick measuring contest of brutality and murder that's just so freaking cool.
I thought it was really interesting, their banter between the two, in the way that they communicate while they're killing people, and they're going back and forth, and they're kind of like, oh, okay, you shot that guy, I'm gonna shoot the next guy, except I'm gonna shoot something that kills him. Now, I'm not gonna just shoot him, I'm gonna shoot this fan and it'll fall on him and kill him. Right. Also, one quick thing to point out, I think out of all of the mainline MCU films and all of the mainline DCEU films, the Suicide Squad is the first film to show a dick in it, which was interesting, as that guy got killed in this scene.
Right.
And I was like, okay, here we go.
Right.
I guess.
And John Cena's, massive package in those whitey tighties.
Yeah, well, worth the price of admission alone. Am I right, ladies? And some fellas, or whoever. But him and dude, when he was in the jungle and he for some reason just decided to strip down to his underwear,
Why
I was
the fuck
like,
are you naked?
Yeah. He said, down to your tidy whities, and he was like, that's racist.
Yeah, very funny.
Man, the dude is huge. That guy's jacked.
Let's talk about Peacemaker for a minute. I was shocked at how much I loved John Cena in this movie. He was so funny, and even when it got down to like more serious moments at the end where him and Rick Flagg are fighting each other, or when he's about to kill Ratcatcher, he pulled it off. He pulled off the serious scenes, and I don't want to say it's all James Gunn, because again, like I said before, he's an actor's director. But John Cena, I've never seen him this good in anything. Like, he's good in like cock blockers, and I haven't seen Fast and Furious yet. But yeah, he was great. And now, after seeing such a good performance out of him, both dramatically and comedically and in all the action scenes, I can't wait to see his show. Like, before I was like, really, Peacemaker show? Like, I was going to watch it regardless, but now it's just, I'm hyped.
You know what it reminds me of a lot of? I mean, obviously the comparison is fairly apt, is Dave Bautista. When you saw, when Dave Bautista definitely said, I mean, he said in interviews that he credits James Gunn for basically saving his life and his career. He was broke. He had lost a lot of his money from WWE because he did not have the financial wherewithal to do what he needed to do with taxes and things of that nature. And switching to acting was not easy for him, but as he got older, you can't wrestle forever, especially doing the things that he did. People forget that professional wrestling is very, very hard on the body, and I think he wanted to be able to do things like kneel and sit down when he was 40 or 50, but he started taking acting fairly seriously. And for those of you who have seen his catalog of movies up until that first Guardians of the Galaxy, it wasn't that great. He was in like random kung fu movies with Michael Jai White and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not saying every role that he was in was bad, but James Gunn really kind of gave him his biggest break. And one thing that he did up until that point was he started to take acting classes. He was like, I can't screw this up. He's like, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. And I think it's obvious what happened from that point on. Dave Bautista became a very, very good actor. I won't say he's going to win an Oscar, but I think that he's done a very good job. If you don't believe me, go watch Blade Runner 2049. He does a fantastic job in the opening.
He's not even in it that much, and he's great.
And he's fantastic, and he's great in the Marvel films that he's been in, and I'm sure future movies he's going to do well in. And John Cena is another one of those actors who has been in a lot of things. He's been the face of a company for a very long time with WWE. He's a tremendous person. He has over almost 700 Make-A-Wish appearances that he's done for kids. He has a lot of acting experience at this point, but nothing really that kind of broke through into the market in terms of his acting ability. And I think that this was his first chance to kind of showcase what he's been working on for the last decade, and he just knocked it out of the goddamn park.
Yeah.
Swing and home run. And like you said, I'm really interested to see what his HBO show looks like, especially with James Gunn working on it, directing episodes and things of that nature, because if he could get what he got out of him in the Suicide Squad for the Peacemaker show and not being tied, there's not a lot of Peacemaker lore. Trust me. I've read all of it. I have a video coming out about him. Some other YouTubers rushed, beat me to the punch. I don't care. I'm still going to make the video because I'm going to make it my way. I'm going to make it for you guys. But I've read everything now. I've read everything, all of his old 1950s or 60s appearances, his stuff in the 80s, all the way up to today. I've read it all, and I think that John did a really good job of bringing that character to life, making it his own, and I think that the show is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, I rambled for a long time there.
I want to say something crazy, but I mean,
don't.
I'm going to say it.
Oh, shit.
This performance from John Cena, and of course you're going to get these comparisons a lot, I thought it was better than anything I've seen from The Rock, if I'm being honest.
Oh my
like
God,
The Rock is a superstar. He's like the most paid actor right now, isn't he? He's like the biggest movie star.
We just lost 47 viewers
that exists. But I'm just saying. I mean, The Rock's in a lot of great movies, but I mean, I just from a performance standpoint, and we'll see what he brings to Black Adam. I think that's going to be a much more dramatic character. I think that's probably going to be his most dramatic role that he's ever done, besides maybe the one where he like doesn't have a leg and he like is jumping across buildings that are like he used to be a firefighter or whatever.
I feel like The Rock always kind of plays The Rock in every movie. Like Dwayne Johnson is Dwayne Johnson.
Every time I see him, I'm like, okay, well, this is just The Rock is in this movie, I guess.
Yeah. Did you like he was in G.I. Joe Retaliation playing The Rock, and then he was in Fast and Furious playing The Rock, and then he was in Scorpion King a decade ago playing a big CGI Scorpion Rock. And it's difficult because he's so synonymous with that character, but also maybe there's movies out there that we haven't seen, but I think I've probably seen almost every one of his movies.
I mean, is that a crazy thing that I'm saying?
I don't know if I could make that justification based off of one thing, but I think that the roles that John Cena has taken are definitely more diverse than the roles that Dwayne Johnson has made. So I think that, I can probably see where in the future that might be the case. Black Adam is definitely going to be just Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Black Adam. So we'll see what happens. But I think that John Cena does have a bit more range right now. Now, us saying that though, that could spark an internet debate, and if that happens, it could lead to a showdown at WrestleMania, which is what we always wanted. Who's the better actor? And then they have to act in front of everybody at the M&T Stadium arena.
They have to like recite Shakespeare.
So Vince comes out and he's like, Dwayne, Hamlet, and he's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
So
that would be sick. But so what do you think about, we talked about John Cena, but what do you think about Peacemaker, the character? I thought the way he was written was so interesting because from a surface level, you know, what you had said earlier, he's kind of like this jokey character. He'll suck a dick for liberty. But at the end of the day, he wasn't lying. He'll kill his friends as if he thinks it's for the greater good.
Yeah, he had bonded with the characters that were in the film throughout the storyline, but he was willing to do just about anything he needed to, including killing all of them for what he thought was the greater good, which I think a lot of times the measure of a character who is a good villain in films is one who thinks that they are the hero. Right. And John Cena, it's so hard to do that sometimes. John Cena's Peacemaker as a character really did that. He kind of went, I'm the good guy in this story, even though he was doing these terrible things towards the end of it. And I think that you're going to see him wrestle with that in his own show, depending upon what time period it takes. It could go back in time, or it could be a forward in time story after the events of Suicide Squad. I anticipate it will be. For sure. But I think hopefully we see him as a character grow from what he experienced there.
Right. And when he had that showdown with Rick Flagg, right? And he was, I think it was clear, he was like, Rick, why are you making me do this?
Yeah, please don't make me do this.
Yeah, he's like, you're doing this, not me. And then when, Rick Flagg ultimately died and was like, Peacemaker, what a fucking joke. Yeah. He was like, I think that stuck in his head a little bit. And then from that point on, he had to see the mission through. He couldn't stop because killing him means I killed one, I might as well kill them all. Exactly. So when he saw her steal the thing, he was like, well, she's got to die now. And then he sees Bloodsport. He's like, he's got to die now. Where does it end? So I think you're right. We're going to see him wrestle with that. And I'm excited to see what James is able to do as far as writing the character and fleshing him out more. And I'm excited to see what John's able to do dramatically, because I think the show's going to be a lot more serious. There's going to be a lot more downtime in a television show, and there's going to be a lot more room to work with. So it's going to be interesting for sure. But yeah, John Cena was awesome.
So next character I really wanted to discuss, even though it's not, I mean, we've kind of loosely discussed Idris Elba's Bloodsport.
Yeah,
sorry.
There we go.
It took me a second. As I was talking, I was like, don't screw it up. You can't do it again. But he was a great character. We didn't really dive too deep into him. I thought his motivations were fine, and I thought that they were a great twist on like the classic motivations that you would expect. Like he has a daughter, he's doing it to protect her, but really he doesn't give a shit about her. He just like, he kind of is manipulated. He doesn't like his back being against the wall, and he was his actions were gonna put her in a worse spot. So he kind of eventually just broke and did the right thing. And one of the interesting parts about the movie is Amanda Waller does say, he said, I'm not a leader. And she said, well, then I will make you one. And throughout the course of the film, he goes from a character that is extremely self-serving and not very interested in being part of a team to being the legitimate heart and soul leader of that team. Somebody that I wanted to see more of. And just to add on to that, he has a dope-ass gun. Yeah. That part of him shooting Starro with a gun that he was just piecing together from stuff on his outfit was sick.
Yeah. I thought his character development was interesting in the way that he grew to realize that he cared more about his daughter than he thought he did. Yeah. Via, a surrogate, somebody else, which was, of course, Ratcatcher too, who he had said himself that he saw a lot of his daughter in her, and seeing how innocent and pure she was in this terrible fucked situation that she was in, he felt the need to protect her, just like he felt the need to protect his daughter from going to the same prison that he was in. So I thought that was a really interesting piece of storytelling that was inserted into the film, and it gave us a lot of development for not only Bloodsport but Ratcatcher as well, because she kind of saw him as a father figure, and she had lost her father. And I thought just in those like couple little flashbacks we got between her and her father, played by Taika Waititi, were so like emotional. Yeah. When they were just sitting out there on the city, just overlooking it and just talking about how pure rats are, even though everyone hates them. And we didn't get a lot, but we got enough for us to care about the characters, and I think that's what's the most important thing.
For sure.
You can have a whole entire movie about a singular character and not give a shit about them, but you have a movie about 10 different characters.
Yeah, you guys seen Green Lantern?
Yeah, and
just so you know, Green Lantern is, Garrett can testify to this. Green Lantern is one of my favorite DC characters. At one point, I think I owned every Green Lantern comic and appearance for like 40 years.
Yeah.
But along the same lines with Blood Shot or Sport, depending on who you're talking to,
Blood Man.
I thought that they did a really good job of, like I said, of turning him from a character that was very self-centered to a character that was very team-oriented and who was willing. At first, he was very much about let's get in, get out, get the mission done, to having that moral change of heart and being willing to potentially put his own life on the line to make sure that he did the right thing at the end of the film and took care of, from a moral perspective, the right thing, which is killing Starro and getting the hell out of Corto Maltese. So that was a really interesting character development. I thought Idris Elba did a really good job in his action sequences. I thought his outfit costume was awesome.
Sick.
Yeah, super cool. But I did want to, if we can, just shift, because as time's progressing here, I just wanted to be able to spend a little bit of time on the other characters. The next one I wanted to discuss is a character that we've seen a lot in the DCEU already, and that is Miss Harley Quinn. I thought that this movie did a fantastic job of not wasting our time with Harley Quinn, in the sense that we don't need to go back and discuss the Joker. We don't need to go back and discuss Birds of Prey. We don't need to go back and discuss the things that happened in Suicide Squad. Instead, the first Suicide Squad. Instead, let's just get into this story, assume that the audience isn't full of dipshits and that they know who this character is, and then let's go ahead and give her her own subplot. And I thought it was really interesting how she just got on the initial transport and was like, yeah, I got caught with road rage and now I got sent back to the Suicide Squad, which was like great. And then the rest of the time, her motivation just was essentially like, let me get the job done. But halfway through, she had this really interesting, like, romantic moral side quest where she meets the leader of the new Corto Maltesian government. And the writing for her was excellent. I thought it was some of the funniest and best delivered of Margot Robbie's career as Harley Quinn. Maybe not necessarily as her as an actress. She's incredible.
Yeah,
in
I think
everything
she's definitely coming into her own as Harley Quinn. The more we see her, the better she gets. So.
And I think that her in the one shot, she was great in obviously a lot of different areas of the film. The end film, the climax with her and the javelin was fantastic. Her first initial scene with javelin receiving that was really funny, but hands down, my favorite part for her in this film was the hallway scene where she was escaping from captivity in the Corto Maltesian jail. And that was just one of the most excellent. It was like if you took all of the different hallway sequences that James Gunn has done in other films, like with Star-Lord in the hallway fighting people in the kiln and things like that, and you amped it up to 10 and just made it ultra brutal and said, do whatever you want to do. And they just really made her, the action sequences in Birds of Prey were top tier with her, but I think that this really took the brutality of the character and her like own motivations and ramped it up to 11, and they did a really good job.
Yeah, I really liked how James Gunn took what Kathy Yan had done with the character, which was great, which was, separate her from the Joker, have her figure out what her identity is. And I think that James took the character and moved the needle forward. Harley made her own decisions for her own reasons and not for anyone else. And, I thought the little romantic subplot was good. I thought it was
Me too.
An interesting little slice that was separate from the film and very unique visually, and from a storytelling perspective was different, because we got a lot more fun and bubbly sort of stuff from Harley and more vibrant, which was interesting in not only the way that it was written, but visually as well, with all the flowers and all that during the action sequence. But I like how the character took charge, like, of her own destiny and was like, all right, this guy's gonna kill kids, and I'm not cool with that. That
led
he has to die.
That led to kind of my favorite line from her in the movie, and she goes, "I said that if I saw any red flags, I would get out of there, and killing kids is a red flag."
Right.
And I thought that was a really good line. But because of how much Harley Quinn's been featured in the DCEU, I was worried that I knew that James Gunn, from his track record, wasn't going to reduce a female actress to kind of what she had originally been shown as in the first Suicide Squad, which was essentially eye candy. And in this movie, I thought they did an excellent job. Everything from her outfit that she wore in the original Attack on the beach,
was sick.
The Live Fast Die Clown jacket was cool, all the way through her red dress that she wore throughout the majority of the rest of the film, which is excellent. Wardrobe for her, which we have discussed the rest of the characters' wardrobe, so it's not just like we're doing it for the one female here, but it was really cool to see like kind of a unique outfit for the character that wasn't necessarily something comics inspired. But she did a great job. Moving on, the other female character in the film that just was the absolute heart and soul of the team throughout the entire adventure was Ratcatcher 2. And she was played by Danielle, God, how do you say her last name? Melchor? I'm sorry.
How to say it.
I'll look it up in a second here when it switches to Garrick and you can't tell that I'm doing things on my laptop. But she was great. I think that from the moment that we were first really started to get a feeling of a character, how she was when she was introduced to King Shark in the jungle, and he was going to eat her, and then she goes, "Do you eat your friends?" And he goes, "No." And she's like, "Then do you want to be friends?" I thought at that point we really started to understand that she was going to be the moral compass of the team and kind of the heart and the optimism that they needed to get through the mission. I really liked her character. I really liked her arc. I liked her background. And I liked the fact that they didn't insult us as viewers and spend so much time going into her backstory. They gave us exactly what we needed, nothing else. And then they said, okay, go. Let her be her own thing. Let her build her own kind of legacy within the movie. And damn if she didn't have some of the coolest action sequences in it.
Yeah. Her ability to control the rats was awesome. I loved the way that they were able to swarm at the end. And it is, you think about the character Ratcatcher and you're like, okay, they control rats. That's a stupid power. Or Polka-Dot Man. And that's, he throws polka dots at people. That's a stupid power. But James Gunn takes those two absurd, ridiculous things and makes them threatening. Like Polka-Dot Man, his polka dots just rip through people and turn them into sludge. And you think about the amount of rats that are in certain large cities, a swarm of rats is pretty much, unstoppable unless you can destroy them all at once. So these are two very powerful characters that are sort of like gimmicky jokes, at first glance, but he makes them intimidating. But he also makes them interesting from a personal perspective, where you care about both of these ridiculous characters. And I love the way at the end where she's calling all the rats to attack Starro, and Bloodsport is completely frozen in fear. He doesn't know what to do because he has this phobia of rats that he had gotten from his father, locking him in a box. And she puts her arm around them and is like, "Don't worry, I got you. I'm going to make sure you get out of this okay." And it's those little moments that are sprinkled throughout the movie that make it so great. And the down, more quiet moments were really my favorite parts of the movie. And those are what really stick with me at the end of the day. Like the action scene where Bloodsport and Peacemaker are killing all those dudes is fun. The opening sequence where everyone's getting blown to hell is fun. But the best scenes in the movie are them on the bus.
Yeah,
the best scenes in the movie are them in the club. All these scenes where they get to connect with one another and learn about each other, and you get to dig into their backstories more. Those are my favorite scenes, and those are what really get you emotionally invested in the characters, emotionally invested in the movie, and make you feel better coming out of it.
Yep.
So that's what he does fantastically, and I would have liked some more of those, but I understand you got to have the action in there as well. But yeah. Ratcatcher was great, and
her name is Daniela Melchior, which hopefully I pronounce properly, and if not, I apologize. I probably will never meet you, but if I do, you can correct me in person, or the chat will do it for me. Anytime you watch one of my videos and I mispronounce something, that usually the number one most rated comment is, actually it's pronounced so
exactly.
She did a great job. The one thing about the character that I would have liked to have seen more is just a little bit more of the mask. I thought her costume was really great, very faithful to the comic books. There's not a whole lot of Ratcatcher appearances throughout comic history, less than 20 of the original male Ratcatcher, but I think they did a great job of adapting that costume for her, and I thought it looked really good. Next character that we want to discuss was my personal favorite character in the film, and that is Polka-Dot Man. And I say this in the very beginning of my complete history of Polka-Dot Man video, and it's that if you would have told me just a couple years ago that I would have completely fallen head over heels for a character whose comic book or whose power is to throw polka dots at you, I would have laughed. I would have been like, there's no possible way that that's true. It's just not in my brain as something I would have liked. But damn it, that character was so much fun and so cool and so quirky and unique. It really bums me out that I don't know if we're going to get to see more of that version of the character ever again. I can see some definite ways that they might be able to do it, which I'll discuss in a minute. But I thought that the character Polka-Dot Man himself in the comic books, he's kind of, he's always been a very, I would say he's not a C tier character, a D tier character. He's all the way down in like F minus. He's with Condiment King in the lowest of the low.
Right.
The character has just been a laughing stock, and James Gunn took that character and he did something that oftentimes only James Gunn can do. He made you care about him, and he was a really unique, interesting character. He adjusted a lot of different things about the character from the comic books, such as giving him, native powers through this extraterrestrial virus that his mother injected him with, gave him this craziness of where he is constantly wanting to murder his own mother, and he just made the character really, I would say, depressingly unique and funny.
Right.
Like, he was very morbid and very, but towards the brilliant thing about the way that James Gunn wrote him is at first he's a very morbid and depressing character, but as the film goes on, he becomes more and more and more likable and more optimistic, all the way to, spoiler again, part is his death. The very last thing he gets to say in the movie is, I'm a fucking superhero, and then he dies, because you could kind of see where he had finally broken through that and seen his own self-worth, and he was just a really, really fun character. What do you think about the Polka-Dot Man himself, Mr. Garrick?
So I want to give the actor the credit, and I know
that's why I was
his name
tossing it to you.
is David. So I'm going to try and say his last name. It's
Dasmalkian.
Dasmalkian, I think is how you say it. But, shout out to him. The first time I ever saw him in anything was The Dark Knight, and he's great in that. He's... and
then he's in everything.
Yeah, he is in a ton of different things, but he's only in that for like a few seconds. But there was an interesting thing that James Gunn had said on Twitter either today or yesterday about the character, when referencing Milton, and everyone was like, when Milton died, no one knew who the hell Milton was, which was a hilarious scene in and of itself. But Polka-Dot Man goes out of his way to say, no, I really cared about Milton. Milton was my friend. And, and James was like, yeah, Polka-Dot Man only said that because he wanted more like sympathy and attention for himself. He didn't really care about Milton at all. That was a selfish thing that he was doing. And he was like, that's how I approach the character. He wanted sympathy from everyone. He wanted people to, endear themselves to him. And then, like you said, at the end, he finally figured out, maybe I'm not a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And
lives for Suicide Squad missions.
Yeah.
White couch.
I like how James takes these characters on a journey, and even if you don't get the most in-depth stuff, and I don't think we didn't really dig that much into the character of Polka-Dot Man, but we got enough. And you can't really do a deep dive into every single character in an ensemble piece like this when every single character is a new one except for 2 people. You can't really do that, but he did enough, and I thought the performance was great, and I really liked the way that the character worked out, and I was bummed when he died.
Yeah, for sure.
That sucked, man. Like, you were enjoying the character so much, and now you're like, I'm not gonna get to see him again. But maybe things will work out a bit differently. But Starro gave him the old stomp, and we haven't even talked about Starro yet. I thought Starro had crazy character development. Like, he was just chilling out in space looking at the stars, and he was happy.
Yeah.
And the U.S. government had to come in and screw everything up. They basically, you take a look at Starro, and you take a look at the Suicide Squad, and they're pawns of the government being used to serve some greater power that feels like they're doing the righteous thing in the world, and they're using these lower life forms to further their own goals. And so in that way, they're all villains in the movie, but the protagonists are the Suicide Squad and the antagonist is Starro, but they're the same. And he finally breaks free. He finally is seen by the world, and then he dies, and it's tragic.
It is.
That one line of him being happy.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I was happy out looking at the stars was an interesting line, because I mean, you think about the fact that, like, he is not a character who they call him Starro the Conqueror, but he didn't come here to conquer. He came here because he was dragged here. He was imprisoned, tortured for 30 years.
Yeah.
And then when he finally got a chance to, they utilized him and used him for their own research. And when he finally got a chance to break free, he decided, I'll be the conqueror that you guys, had kept calling me. And the character himself, I thought was I would have liked to get a little bit more dialogue from him, but overall I thought that they used him sparingly and effectively.
Yeah.
And a lot of people out there, I've seen some people being mad that, Starro's this character that's been in hundreds of comic book appearances. He needed, more. And it's like, no, not every character needs a live action standalone film like Infinity War, like where Thanos has to do a lot of exposition.
Starro
for
is
you.
not a Thanos character.
Yeah,
right.
So let's spend a little bit of time that we got with him and enjoy the version of them that we got, because I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah.
Speaking of other anthropomorphic animals, I would pay any amount of money to have a 4K, just hours of 4K footage of Sylvester Stallone in a booth going and doing other like funny, like that scene of him as King Shark running around in that aquarium playing with the little like made up animal fish things that were in there. I would love to watch Sylvester Stallone recording that audio. I just think it would be insane. Sylvester Stallone, of course, of Rocky, and I mean, name a franchise, that man's around it. Sylvester Stallone has been an action hero for years, working with James Gunn, also in Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 specifically. He got to play King Shark for the voice in this movie, and I thought that the character of King Shark was just an incredible amount of fun. We'd seen King Shark before in live action in The Flash. For me personally, I didn't think it was that interesting. I think they kind of just did what most people would do with a character like that, and it kind of
him big and scary.
Big, scary, and he smashes stuff. And I think that they did their very best with this character to kind of try to humanize him with what he was capable of doing. And they wrote him interestingly enough, and they made him into a character that, again, you feel sympathetic for, you feel empathy for the character, which was really good. And he was just funny. He was like a funny character. He was threatening. He was intimidating. I thought it was interesting how quickly they made the transition in the first intro scene of them in the jungle, where he's in the process of potentially eating Ratcatcher 2, and Bloodsport shoots him like 50 times with a gun, and he looks just absolutely terrifying coming at him, very just brutal. He's coming at Bloodsport, and then he immediately turns back to that childlike wonder, talking with Ratcatcher 2 about being friends just a few minutes later. And it's just really an interesting transition for the character, really great writing, and I had a lot of fun with him. And he has cool shorts.
Yep.
Monster is nom nom. So they definitely stole the. I thought it was really interesting how James Gunn got his Hulk smash moment, except he James Gunnified it and he said, Nawe, or how did he say? Nanawe. He said, Nanawe, monster is nom noms. And he went, monster is nom nom, and then he goes and bites Starro in the leg. So that was really fun.
Yeah, King Shark was cool. It was essentially like
this figure is thick.
It is.
It's a thick boy.
He's essentially like the Groot of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't. If you had to compare the two, who do you like more? You're a Groot man? Let's just take Guardians 1 and Suicide Squad. You're a Groot man or you a Shark man?
Oh, man. We're going to have to do a whole podcast on that.
I think I got to go Groot simply for the We Are Groot moment where he saved everyone at the end. Because that was, he got a little bit of a more heroic last stand.
I'd agree with you.
King Shark. But King Shark was fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he was a healthy comedic part of the film.
No, in a fight, King Shark wipes the floor with him.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, King Shark was good. I'll be excited to see the character return. Hopefully, James Wan is able to eventually use him. I don't know if he'll probably won't be in the second Aquaman, but maybe he could be in the third or something like that, which would be a lot of fun.
Or a cameo, or he could be in the next Suicide Squad, or any number of other different
but
franchises.
I'd like to see Jason Momoa hang out with King Shark.
It would be interesting if just as a side note, you saw Jason Momoa bring him in and was like, you guys let this one loose again, and he's like, I'm stop dropping your trash in my oceans or something. Kind of gave him that speech and dropped him off. I think that'd be fun.
Got him, holds him by like the nape of his neck, like a little
a little puppy.
Yeah, tosses him in Bell Rev or whatever.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. So other than that, I guess we'll kind of. I'd like to end the majority of our discussion here with just your favorite part of the movie, if you have it. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you had to pick like maybe a favorite line or a favorite sequence or whatever just pops into your mind, what did you think your favorite part was?
I think my favorite part of the movie, that's hard to say. Just like pure fun, I would say it's probably the competition between Peacemaker and Bloodsport killing people. I think that was probably like for just action, I think that would probably be that or the Harley scene. But I think my favorite part was, I think, Rick Flagg's death.
Yeah,
hit me right in the heart.
Yeah,
it hit him right in the heart.
That's a pun.
But it was very, very emotional, and I was surprised at how much it got to me, because these are one character that I could not give less of a shit about from the first movie.
Yeah.
Who now I'm very emotionally invested in, and another character who we had just met in this film, who was mostly used for comedy, and then shit gets really serious. It gets and you realize, okay, this is real. This is we're not laughing, we're not joking anymore. This is serious stuff. And Rick Flag went out, as a noble hero. He said, I'm done doing this horse shit for the government. I'm done being their pawn. I'm gonna do the right thing for once. Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably the one part of the movie that stuck with me the most.
In terms of like fun action set pieces, my favorite part of the movie was probably Harley Quinn's fight scene in the hallway. Mm-hmm. I thought that was done really well. Really interesting fight scene, and I thought it definitely lived up to how awesome the fight scene with her was in Kathy Yan's Birds of Prey in the
prison.
Yeah, in the prison when she was breaking everybody out, and then all the water came down, and it was just shot so beautifully, and I thought this was done really well as well. But I do think that my favorite overall part was probably the same as yours, which was just the whole fight scene between, I guess the dialogue between Rick Flagg and Peacemaker when they were fighting was really, really good.
Even the action though, when it was had it on the helmet and the reflection, you could see them fighting. I looked over at you and I was like, "This is fucking sick."
Yeah, that was done really, really well. But I think that my favorite line, and that you actually already brought it up earlier, was when he said, "Peacemaker, what a joke," and then he died. I thought that was a really, really good line. Or possibly when Weasel woke back up on the beach, because he went and he ran back into the jungle. That was fun.
Yeah.
But overall, we really enjoyed the film. The movie itself is not perfect, but I really don't want to spend a lot of time just finding reasons to complain about it, because
talking about what we didn't like.
Because to me, whenever I do that in a podcast, it kind of sucks the fun out of what I think the podcast should be about, which is just having fun, enjoying stuff. And unless a movie has some really egregious problems that we need to discuss,
right? I mean, when we talked about Black Widow, I feel like I probably complained a lot, but it was like a 50-50 movie for me. There was some stuff that I liked, and there was some stuff that didn't really work. But in this movie, most of it worked. Like if I had to complain about some stuff, be like, well, the government characters, like the Corto Maltese, weren't all that interesting.
Amanda Waller's part sucked.
Yeah, there were some things here or there that didn't really work, but for the most part, it was a great experience. So there wasn't really a lot to get upset about or complain about. So it's a fun movie, and
I agree.
It's an emotional movie.
You want to watch it when we're done?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Because it's on HBO Max. We got it. So, all right. So that's kind of it for the majority of our Suicide Squad discussion today. We'll kind of keep the clock running. We're over our time limit here by a few minutes because we started a couple minutes early and we're already over. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat right now. We're probably not going to go back too far and try to find any. So if you guys have anything, we'll be happy to answer them. But keep in mind, we're about 45 seconds to a minute behind live to what we're streaming on YouTube. In the meantime, we do have a lot of content coming down the pipeline. We're going to have videos on comic book origins and history for what if characters and things in the show. We both have very mixed feelings on the first 2 episodes of What If that came out. We're going to discuss those next week after the first 3 are out, so we have a little bit more stuff to discuss, considering those are only like 30 minutes a piece. You're not going to fill an entire hour talking about 30 minutes of a show. That just doesn't make any sense. So we'd rather spend some time discussing that next week with you guys. In the meantime, we got a lot of stuff that's new on our channel. We'd appreciate it if you guys gave it a look, share it on social media, do all that stuff. We got our names roughly here-ish, maybe, on our pictures on Twitter, so feel free to follow us. I hover at the exact same Twitter follower. You might look at my account and be like, this guy has 320,000 subscribers and less than 1,000 followers on Twitter. But yeah, that's how it is. And I don't even write offensive stuff, so maybe I'm just not good. Anywho, feel free to follow us. But in the meantime, we'll start answering your questions now. The first question is, can we get an Ebony Maw impression? And I think, yes, you can get one. But you know what we forgot to do? We haven't given a single shout out to Natalie Portman today.
That's true.
Natalie, shout out to you. You're great. We love you. You're our inspiration.
Hope you're in the Suicide Squad 3.
Yep. You could maybe be Thor if they kill him. Who knows? So in terms of Ebony Maw, I don't even remember. What are some of his lines? I haven't seen Infinity War in a while.
You always go with the corpse line.
Yeah, so I'll take it off of your corpse.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. And then there's other stuff, but I don't remember it. I got to rewatch Infinity War and Endgame and get some new quotes, because I got like 4 for him. That's it.
Yeah, you need to step up the
Is
Ebony
this
Maw
chattering animal speak for you? That kind of thing. Next question. You guys, somebody, Carlos already asked, are you guys going to talk about the What If episodes? Next week we're going to discuss all 3 of the ones. I don't know what the next one is yet. I think they'll let us know a little bit closer to when it airs next week. So that should be fun. I'm really looking forward to the zombie one, man, because that's going to have Peter Parker as the Sorcerer Supreme / zombie hunter. So we'll see what that turns out to be.
Mm-hmm.
Garrick, this is a question for you because I don't know shit. Can Steppenwolf beat the Age of Ultron Avengers? Steppenwolf by himself.
Yeah.
Oh,
easily, actually.
Easy peasy. Steppenwolf is apparently a brick shithouse.
Yeah, he fucks them up big time. Big time.
Bobby asked, darn, did I miss the stream, basically? I mean, yeah, but the fortunate thing for you is we have our own channel set up for just podcasts and other junk that we're going to be doing. Again, we discussed this earlier in the podcast, but since you weren't here, we'll bring it back for you. We'll give you a quick recap. We have another channel called Key Issues Podcast that we're going to drop in the description. We'll drop it in here, and we'll put it in the description of a bunch of our other videos in the future, where we're backlogging our podcast episodes, because what's the point of having them if you can't listen to them in the future? Not that I would want to listen to my own voice. That's some really weird narcissistic stuff, but you might, so feel free to go there. We'll also drop other things like maybe some reviews. I was discussing maybe looking at some of our action figure and comic book collections on there, and just stuff that doesn't necessarily fit with the general feel and vibe of our main channel. So that'll be on there.
Yep.
Michael Myers asks, do you have any celebrity autographs? Do you? You like sports and stuff.
I do. I have a Chauncey Billups signed jersey, basketball jersey. Shout out to the 2004 Pistons world champs, baby. I have a Jason Momoa signed Justice League sketch cover of a picture I drew.
You drew.
Yeah.
And had him sign in front of you.
He said, "You draw this?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Cool." That was our entire
and then he ripped a sick guitar solo in front of him in a Slash helmet.
Yeah.
All right, I have a Gotham Knights from Dark Knight Rises jersey upstairs that's signed by Hines Ward, who was in the film. Hines Ward is a NFL. He was a wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's since retired. Pittsburgh Steelers, greatest football team of all time. Thank you. And he was also in The Dark Knight Rises as one of the players. He caught the game-winning touchdown when Bane blew up the stadium, and he kind of ran into the end zone and turned around and had that, like, holy shit, everything was destroyed moment. So my father-in-law got me that jersey from an auction site that's signed by him. So that's a really cool thing that I have. It's upstairs. It needs to get framed, and it needs to go in here, and I don't know why I haven't done that.
Mm-hmm.
Michael also asks, Starro video when? I haven't written one, but I think if I do, it would probably be something. I would probably try something new and do something along the lines of like Starro's greatest hits. I think I want to kind of start doing a greatest hits thing for characters that have like really big, really expansive histories. Like Starro's been in like 350 comics. I can't do a complete history of him accurately, or else that video is going to be like 10 hours long. So I think it would be funner to take a look at some of the coolest stories that he's been in. So I might do something like that. Next question. Are you guys doing the other Netflix characters power scaling? And really, this is a question for Garrick, because I don't like power scaling, but he's really good at it. So Garrick, Netflix defenders.
Nick likes power scaling when the videos do well and the checks come in. Then he likes power scaling, but he doesn't like it right now.
Sorry, I have kids to feed, and I need you to make videos that do well.
I'll make a Daredevil one probably, but I'm probably not going to make one on like Luke Cage or Punisher or Jessica Jones.
Literally, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are like the two most interesting ones because they're superpowered.
So?
Okay, well, fuck me. And
I'm just telling you what I'm going to do.
If you want Luke Cage, drop it in the chat. But also,
if you want
Garrick
Luke Cage and Jessica Jones videos, then you can make them yourself.
Garrick never listens to what subscribers want anyway.
I don't, because you guys screwed me on the Vision video, okay? Y'all tell me to make Loki and Black Widow videos, but it looked like you enjoyed the Ghost Rider video, so maybe I'll just do what I want.
Overheats asks, is Peggy Carter still Captain America if she isn't wearing the American flag? Well, she was never Captain America. She was referred to as Captain Carter. So
yep.
She actually gives herself the title. So she's not Captain America. Somebody says, Nick, when you put on that shirt, did you realize that you were taking an Iron Man shirt to a DC podcast? Yeah, somebody brought that up earlier. But hey, it was clean.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have like a bunch of kids, laundry is one of those things that like you just can't keep up. We did like 4 loads in the last 2 days, and it's still just constantly going through clothes. But yeah, I did realize what I was doing. I wore my cool like Frank Miller Batman shirt like a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and I just wore like another one of my really nice Joker shirts the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, here we are. I'm wearing the Iron Man shirt. I'm sorry, I let a lot of you guys down.
Right.
Next question.
Don't let it happen again.
I won't. This is for you. Who do you think would win? Well, I don't know if he'd even be able to answer this yet because we haven't seen the film, but who do you think would win, Shang-Chi or Iron Fist? If you're talking about the MCU, Garrick,
I don't know.
Yeah, can't answer it yet. We have to see Shang-Chi's feats in the film.
Based on just the trailer, I mean, I guess Iron Fist bullies him, but
Yeah.
we don't. I don't know anything about Shang-Chi yet.
In the comic books, I would probably say Iron Fist because he is the most experienced martial artist in the Marvel universe. He's absolutely insane.
Right.
What else?
I think that's about it.
That's all I see for big. Somebody said comic. Well, that was all part of this other stuff. Thank you guys. So that's it for questions. Thank you guys for watching this episode of the Key Issues podcast and listening to us rant and rave about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. We hope you guys get a chance to check it out if you haven't, and if you haven't, then hopefully we gave it a glowing enough review for you to check it out. Follow us on Twitter. Both of our names are all throughout the podcast. Subscribe to our podcast channel if you want, and a bunch of other YouTuber things. Garrick, am I missing anything in terms of plugging shit that we do and things I need to say?
I would just like to say before we get out of here, a couple things. One, follow me on Twitter, okay?
Yeah.
Nick already said it, but I'm going to say it again. So go do that real quick. You won't miss anything because I'm just going to ramble on for like the next 20 minutes about complaints that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Two, The Suicide Squad, is it the best DCEU movie? We asked the question in the thumbnail and haven't answered it.
We did.
The answer is yes, it is.
Yeah, it was the very first thing we actually said.
I think Man of Steel is probably number 2 for me. And then number 3 I said was Birds of Prey. Nick's top 3 is The Suicide Squad, followed by Suicide Squad, followed by Batman v Superman. But yeah, that's all we have today. Thanks for watching.
Okay, he's going to cut me off. That's it for us from here at Key Issues. Thank you guys for watching. And remember the motto, The Suicide Squad over everything.